Okay, welcome everybody. You'll have to forgive some of the images. It's not a side bias thing, but it was just images that we grabbed. So it's not, we weren't keeping in mind keeping the images balanced allied or axis. So just keep that in mind. So we have an upcoming patch coming in on May of this year. It's 1.36.5, and there's a lot of stuff in there to talk about. So hence the reason for the RatChat that we've got going on. So first of all, we want to start talking about heads-up display, the mission waypoints. It's already in game as it is. But we've kind of changed it up a little bit, and we've talked about it previously, but not as in-depth as what we're going to be doing today. So let's jump into some of the images here. So as with anything else, you can right-click on a location on the map, and it gives you the option of either adding a waypoint, add a report, center on, or HC options if you're in high command. So as you click on add waypoint, you're going to have three different options: a rally here, attack here, or a bomb here. Now previously, actually in the current version of the game, instead of bombard here, it says mortar, I think mortar or mortar mark. So we changed that up. It's going to say bombard here, and but it is the same icon that you're going to see on the map. And then where you got waypoint name, you could add a name to your waypoint, and you could add a note to your waypoint. The note is only going to show up if you click on the waypoint on the map. It's not going to show automatically. Now, one thing I do want to note is you do have a max of 10 characters for the name of that waypoint. So shorthand may be your best option if you're trying to convey a certain message. Any spaces, from what I've tested out in the alpha, any spaces that you have in the name of the waypoint, where I have here, it says tanks here, it takes out that little space. So it scrunches the word here closer to the word tanks. So there's no space in between. So after I set in this image, I've got a picture-in-picture on two different missions with the same objective. This is taken in Romond and Romond West. So as you can see on my alternate account, once I did click on the area for the waypoint, set it up, it says tanks here. I know you probably can't read that, but that's how it's going to show on the screen, and I'll expand this a little bit later. So this time I want to click on the bridge and set up a bombard here waypoint. So go in and I click bombard here, and then from there I could type in the name, and I did a little waypoint note, need bridge down, Axis are tearing us up, we need to bomb that bridge. And so after I set that, it shows up on the map, and it shows up on anybody that has the same objective, as you can see on the bottom right. Even the planes, which we'll get into a little bit later as well, everything is visible. It's fantastic. It's going to be a game changer. This is only going to be used by the mission leaders themselves. So, not just, kind of how it's set up anyway, as it is in game. We wanted to elaborate on, with this being implemented, we wanted to elaborate on mission leaders. So it gives them a little bit more visibility and setting up a zone of control. Tanks here, as you can tell, it's close by the army base of Romond, and it'd be a good spot for them to set up and take care of the enemy tanks or even the boats that spawn in. So this time we'll do an attack here. And I clicked on the screen, set up, clicked on attack here. And then I added ATGs needed to prevent the enemy tanks from crossing the bridge. Pretty self-explanatory. From the account, my alternate account on the bottom, you can see the 2 waypoints I had already set up. And then I did a little expansion on what you're going to be able to see from the 2 perspectives. So here's the perspective from my main account. You can see now the distance, as you can see the bomb bridge, it's set at, from where I'm standing, it's 184 meters away from the bridge. The meter indicator, the numbers are only going to show up if you're within, I believe, 200 meters from the objective. Otherwise, you will not see the distance. You'll just see the name bomb bridge. So it's a good thing to note that as you're walking towards these waypoints, if it's directly in front of you and you're in a straight line with it, it's going to disappear. And that's so it's not obstructing any views of the enemy or whatever, especially when you're aiming a weapon. And here's the view from my alternate account that was on a different mission, but with the same objective. Once again, you can see everything. Notice that the bomb bridge, it doesn't have the distance indicator on it. It just says the name because it's over 200 meters away from it. Now, let's take a look from Hio Silver's airman perspective. And Hio, if you're here,
yes,
I'm going to defer to you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, one of the things that I found is great is particularly if you're flying at night and you're trying to support either a defense or an attack, is that your waypoints now are going to be like neon signs leading you directly to where you need to go. And the more accurate that those are placed, the more accurate that you'll be able to drop a bomb or strafe or whatever it is you need to do to assist those that are in the particular target area. Next. From the like a bomber's position here, again, as Jim was saying, you can see that the waypoints are up fairly high, and as you get closer, next, and they drop down to the lower altitude. And even though that looks like it's not accurate, if I'm facing directly at the waypoint, then it will then be right where the waypoint was set. Next. There, you get an idea. So the bomb bridge is dead center of the alignment of the bridge, and I can actually line up the bomb site. You can also see that if an enemy is capping it, like the docks, or if you need to protect a particular CP, even from the air, I can drop eggs around those areas to help protect them, and also if there's enemy inside of a CP, I can drop a bomb on it and remove those who are inside. Next. Now, in the old way, or the way we have right now, as you approach a factory, now this is only at 3,500 meters, so not real high, but it's still, there's nothing you can really see. If you don't look at your map and get yourself lined up, it could be difficult to actually hit the factory. However, now, next, the pilot, I don't have to flip back and forth between the factory and the map and trying to see where I'm going to go. And every time you flip back and forth, there's a little bit of delay, and it causes a little bit of problems getting lined up. Here, I'm lining up on factory number 4, and I'm actually slightly left of where I need to be. So if I get that point, which is actually set, the waypoint is set directly in the middle of the factory area. If I put that just slightly more to the left of the screen, so it's lined up more with the notch, then I would be dropping directly on it. The great thing is that the factory is so big that that little tiny bit right there does not make any difference. So I'm going to be a lot more accurate. And what I did is I had actually gone past this factory in less than 10 kilometers, able to turn around 180 degrees, line up on the factory, and next, you can see I'm already without doing anything. And that's just with the pilot just dead reckoning by looking at that waypoint. Next. And then the bombardier drops his bombs, and if you look down at the bottom, they're all in the factory. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Hayo. So the HUD Mission Waypoints is very useful, and it depends on, you know, squads, gameplay. I mean, it's going to be a huge game changer if it's used properly. The farther out you are from those HUD waypoints, as you saw from some of the images from Hayo, they get scrunched up together. So it can get a little confusing at times, you know, if you're really far away from the waypoints. So just management and proper placement is going to be the big key.
Hey, Jim, can I add something to that?
Sure.
So the HUD Mission Waypoints is also one of the newest things we're adding to the Mission Leader Toolbox. I think it's really important to recognize here that as I'm reading the chat bar, people are like, oh, this can be used to exploit. Well, it's a tool to be utilized. And it's most important for us that we direct our users. As you may know, World War II Online is a rather difficult game to comprehend. That's why those of us who are here and love it, you know, continue to play it, because there's a significant challenge involved. But it should not be so difficult to direct new users. And that was the inspiration behind this was, how do we get users, particularly new guys or even existing veterans, to quickly understand what their priorities are? I fully see this being utilized in a very productive manner that better directs all users in the combat zone. One of the major advantages is, and it's important to highlight this, is that ground guys, if you talk about forward observation for incoming bombers as an example, Hayo Silver did a great job illustrating how this can be utilized from a bomber perspective, but also coordinating between the ground and the air can also be done, because we're also sharing mission waypoints between missions that have the same target. So it's pretty significant. If you're a ground commander and you need bombs on this target, now you can mark it with a waypoint and say, hey, guys in the air, drop your eggs here. Hey, mission, you guys on my mission, spawn up, and there's the spawn CP, go capture that. It's very quickly going to direct users, but it's really important, and we're going to watch this carefully, that you don't get too crazy with your mission waypoints and just spread them out, because you'll flood somebody's screen. Now, in your preferences section, there will be an opportunity, if it becomes overwhelming, to turn it off. And we may have to look at incorporating new things such as, you know, like limiting factors so it doesn't get so bad, as well as opacity, you know, transparency settings. But ultimately, this is a great tool being applied for the ground commander, the people in the battlefield. And those guys have needed some better tools for a long time. It's in keeping with our philosophy that we're trying to get the ground guys some more tools in their box. So I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on those key points. This is a great way to direct new users, and I really hope to see our veterans utilize this tool effectively and selectively, so that we don't flood the screen. But we do need, you know, to better direct our users, and I think this will do that tremendously well. Jim, back to you. Thanks.
Thank you. So the second point I wanted to touch in on is the engineer class. We're going to be splitting it up, and that's to incorporate the new trench PPOs that we'll get into a little bit later. So I wanted to go through and talk about the split loadout for each of the two classes. So the engineer loadout for there's going to be the engineer and the combat engineer. So there's going to be two engineers. The engineer loadout is going to be for the bolt action rifles on both sides. They're going to have 60 rounds each. You'll have 4 bridge AI repair kits, 1 HE grenade, 4 smoke grenades. And for the PPOs, you're going to have the foxhole, the modular trenches, which we'll get into, and the barbed wire fence and the barbed wire box. Now, the combat engineer loadout is going to have the bolt action rifle for the UK, France, Germany, with 100 rounds each. The M1 Garand for the US forces will have 88 rounds. The justifications are higher rate of fire and accounts for soldiers actual loadout on his belt. So he also will have the 4 HE satchels. He will have 4 HE grenades and 4 smoke grenades. So very similar to what the original engineer that we have now. For the PPOs, he's going to have the foxhole, all the sandbag types, the gun placement, and the tank trap. So that's going to be the split between the two engineer classes. So once again, the basic thing is, it's going to be the PPOs for the most part, and the HE satchels is going to be the difference. You get a little bit more of ammo on the combat engineer because it's more of a combat style persona, where the engineer loadout is more designed for construction. So the next point, let's take a look at the new trenches. I'll tell you what, I'm sure you guys have seen the video that I did spelling out RatChat in the PPOs. It was a lot of fun. So once again, I figure I'd just go ahead and do my name just for shits and giggles here. The build time is going to be somewhat extensive, more so than the fortified mobile spawn that we have now. So it will take some time, and we'll get into damage thresholds and stuff like that in a minute. So I wanted to lay them out and kind of show you what each trench part is. And this is just a quick overview. So let's take a closer look. You've got the end cap, which standing with a rifle or an LMG and stuff, it's perfectly fine. Crouched, you're not really gonna get too much over it. Prone, you're gonna be completely concealed. And this is in the order as you're clicking through the PPOs. So the first one that comes up of the trenches is going to be that end cap. This is the second one. As you right click to switch it over, it's going to be the corner right. So like I said, this is all sequential as far as how they're laid out as you try to place them. The third one is the corner left. Then you have the straight. And then we get into the T sections. Now, all the T sections are going to have the camo tarp over the top. And there's 3 of them. So you've got the T section with the left inlet. You've got the T section with the right inlet. You have the T section with the middle. And then you have a 45-degree right angle and a 45-degree left angle. And one thing to note that all these pieces have that board that kind of, as you can see towards the right side, that board that kind of lays up against the top. You could walk over that and get out of the trench. There's those that set of 3 boxes that's there towards the bottom right. I grabbed a 2-pounder and was trying to walk through a bunch of the trenches. It's somewhat doable, but it's very difficult. And the point is, you won't be able, once you set up a ATG, you won't be able to look over the edge. So ATGs is not really going to be a thing with the PPOs. with the objects in here, it's not designed for the tanks to get in there. I know that was a question that we've gotten a couple times. It's not going to be doable. So I wanted to give you those two things there.
One thing to note is that I'm seeing in chat, the collider, there is no collider on the camo nets. So you can shoot in and out of them. You can toss nades into them.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so as far as placing the trench PPOs, so in this example, I'm trying to set a straight trench up against I think it was another straight trench, but I wanted to show you the end. You know, these lines here show you the end of the original trench that I'm trying to build against. And you could have a little bit of gap farther out if you want. But this would be, you know, it's kind of hard to gauge, you know, the ends of it and stuff. Just I try to look for a, you know, the transparency of the green up against the original, and you'd be able to see if you're lined up on it or not. So the second one here, here's the line that goes along the edge of the trench that's already built. And as you can tell with the transparent green, that I'm actually encroached into the original piece represented by this line. So it gives you a good variance that you can move it forward or backward, or even start to angle it, you know, depending on the terrain or what you're trying to accomplish with the trench itself. Now, my alternate account is on the bottom right-hand corner. I'm with the LMG sitting on top. I've got the LMG actually mounted on the bipod, and I took the Tiger and I was shooting at the trench piece. I wanted to see what the damage threshold was, how many shots it took for the HE round to blow it up. It took 6 rounds of the HE to blow up the piece that I'm in. And once it did destroy it, you can't really see it too well on the bottom right-hand corner, but the trench piece that I was blasting away at is actually disappeared, and I died. So it acts just like a building. If the building gets destroyed and you're inside the building, you die. Same thing with the trenches. If you're inside the trench and the trench piece itself is actually destroyed, it doesn't matter if you're standing, knelt down, or prone, it's going to kill you. So that's a quick look of the new trenches. I will tell you that it's easy to, you know, if you're trying to make a straight line with it, use your compass. Make sure you're true north, true west, you know, or whatever. It's easy to, as with you, when you saw my name, Chim, I was actually trying to make that straight initially. And you could see it was more like a smiley face. So it's easy to get them to kind of wave around and stuff. And that's actually good. It gives you a little variance in depending on the terrain, like I said, or the situation that you're trying to place them at. So our next item is going to be the Sandbag and Barbed Wire PPOs. They are now linkable. This is from when the first PPOs were actually set out. People were trying all sorts of different means of sealing off or protecting their fortified mobile spawns. It was fun. I was there helping to set that up. Some players have gone to certain extremes, and I refer to this as the Great Wall of Henning. Sergeant Henning has done a lot with the PPOs and has been very creative. And you know, once again with the PPOs, there's a lot of different uses that you could do with it. This image from AO Mercy, this is on a hill Toxic puke. I don't know if the image is coming out okay or not on the stream or on the on your guys' end. AO Mercy had set up a little trap just coming over a hillside. Toxic puke was trying to run in and drive a truck in there to set up a fortified mobile spawn, and AO Mercy set up this trap, and basically toxic puke was stuck in a corner. So you know, it's all up to your imagination, and once again, the conditions of what you're trying to accomplish. So with the new linkable sandbags and barbed wire PPOs, they're only linkable against each other. I tried to set one up that was, you know, I tried to push it into one of the new trenches, and it, like I said, you just get the little red area. So here I had built just one of the sandbags, and I wanted to show you. This was just at the point where it turned red. So you'll see it kind of tilt up at an angle, basically showing you, hey, you can't build here. However, I've found out that basically at the very top of the sandbag that's built, you could actually encroach the new piece into almost a full sandbag length, as you can see at the very top of that right-hand corner. And so I just built it out just a little bit, so it was more of a solid piece going across, and it gives me a little more area that I built on. And this is what it looked like when I was done building that. I think this is going to be very useful in a lot of different ways. The damage threshold of the PPOs, you know, the sandbags and the wires and stuff is going to be the same. I think it's a nade or something like that, or a satchel to tear it down. So, and likewise, on a 90-degree angle, once again, I wanted to see what the threshold was. And you could, like I said, you could go into basically one full sandbag off of the top. So I was able to bring that in and set it at a 90-degree angle without a problem. Same thing with the wire box that could go into the sandbags themselves. And it looks like the sandbags were basically built around the wire box, which is really cool. And of course, you can also expand onto that with additional wire boxes. The wire, this wire, you can, same thing. You could actually have that in the middle of the sandbags too, the posts. I had it out just a little bit just to kind of, you know, you can see the wires going through the sandbags and setting up behind. Just gives that little extra protection, a little extra threshold for, you know, people that are behind there. So the sandbags and the barbed wire PPOs being linkable, I really believe that's going to be another game changer. All of these are going to be game changers. You know, the trenches, the engineer class split, barbed wires, and the sandbags being linkable. You know, we've seen some pretty cool stuff over the years with the PPOs. Now that we're able to link those together, is, you know, I'm really excited to see how everybody uses these and some of the implementations. So now we're talking about the server tracked objects. And I wasn't able to jump into to get the images. This is all footage from Old Zeke. Hey, Old Zeke, are you here?
Yeah, my mic's open.
Yep, I got you. Now, how high up were you? Was this about 5,000, or was this?
This was 3.5. This was between the first and second cloud layer.
Okay, okay. And as you can see on the bottom right, that's Old Zeke flying there. We've got a couple players that are on the alpha server, and one of the new PPOs. And as you can see, 3.5 meters up, you can see all the waypoints on the bottom that he had set up. And there he is in his sights, lining it up for the bomb. And he's just dropping away. And I'll tell you, I'll tell you, old Zeke is probably one of the best bombers I've encountered. So here are the impact of the bombs are going through, and it's just destroying everything. The new trench PPOs, they are destroyable, like I said, with the HE rounds from the tanks and anti-tank guns. You could the bombs, it's just like the FMS. You got to land that thing right on it for it to disappear. And but here we're talking about the S.T.Os, and obviously it works really good. So
Jim, if I can step in here just for a second, the version we were using there, which is the version that you get your footage from, we hadn't really set the damage up on those yet. We were still discussing what damage it would take, what we thought the starting point should be. The next alpha that we test should have them set to 1/4 of what it takes for an FMS, which means it should require at least one big bomb, either an SC-250 if it's Axis, or the 500 pounder if it's Brit, and so on, whatever the French F-200 or whatever it is. It should, and a direct hit. A near miss will, if it's close enough, it will start damage. Like a Tiger round or a Sherman 76 or 17 pounder HE will start damage. But it's going to take more of them than what's reflected there, and it will take a direct hit by a big bomb to take one out if everything got set right.
And
that's why we test before we turn it loose.
And one thing to note, the new PPOs, the trenches, one satchel will, like old Zeke was saying, it's about 1/4 of the damage threshold of a regular FMS. So one satchel should take out a piece of the new trench PPOs.
Well, I think that one important thing here for gameplay perspective, in case you're not tracking what server tracked objects means, historically and throughout the entire existence of the game's history, you've had to be able to see your target in order for it to be killed. Server tracked objects are something we've had a little bit for a while with grenades and whatnot, smoke grenades particularly, other small lightweight things. But in terms of advancement, this one represents a pretty significant advancement, meaning that bombers who have long requested this for forever, you can now bomb from a higher altitude without having to see your targets on the ground. And that's the biggest takeaway here from this. You can see in the bottom right picture the altitude there. It can go higher. This is just the demonstration that they did so that you could see what's going on and better. So this opens up, like when you talk about RDP, or even just standard bombing throughout a town, bombers having that altitude, that distance between the fighters is really key to survivability. When we talk about server tracked objects, I just saw a comment about mortars. That's another thing. But then also, what about artillery? What about ship bombardment? This opens the door to many things, but stay focused. Let's keep it consolidated to just the server tracked object bombs. This is a massive breakthrough for us in terms of our bombers getting something very, very meaningful, and that's very exciting. Jim, go ahead.
All righty.
Jim, before you get started, if I can step in here again.
Yeah.
What you see is a little confusing. It's what your game can see with the viz list. I could not see these infantry in my bomb site. But the thing of it was with S.T.O. at that altitude, I didn't have them in my viz list neither. But with S.T.Os, it don't matter. The bomb knows they're there. Just a little clarification there. Sorry.
Oh, that's good.
Oh.
Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, so that's the overview of the server tracked objects for the bombers. Zoom, you want to take care of this one?
Yeah, go ahead. Guys, we're going to talk about the Sturmgewehr 44. This is a very feared weapon. We talked about this on April 1st. A lot of folks are excited about this. Hey, one of the things that's slowing us down a little bit is the lack of an animation artist. And while that's kind of unfortunate news, I'm telling you that because I know we also have like the M1A1 carbine and the 30 cal, and people are wondering where those things are at. I'm working on getting us an asset to help us push those through. The modeling's done, UVs, textures. We even got a bunch of the data work done, but we need more animation work. They're not ready. Unless you want to see a rifle all goofy in the dude's hand, that's what's holding those up. So I'm making the decision to push through and forward on getting the Sturmgewehr out. So the Sturmgewehr is obviously the predecessor. It's the beginning assault rifle of all time. It set the tone for like the AK-47 and all modern weapons in that regard. Its implementation date is 1943. We will be rolling the Sturmgewehr out when this patch comes out, effective Tier 3. So when the Americans join the war, there will not be lots of them. This is a very powerful weapon with an effective range of about 200 meters. Historically, there is a select fire switch on it. However, due to how we need to implement this, it's kind of like the FG42 where we set it up to just be full auto, or you can tap it and it'll fire a single shot, etc. That's what we can do at this time. So there won't be a select fire mechanism. It's just going to be full auto. It's a fantastic weapon. It was designed historically to be a kick-ass weapon. While it mostly saw some action on the East Front, it also did on the West, but more in limited capacity. So look, there's not going to be a ton of these things, but when they come out, they're going to be lethal. The U.S. forces have the BAR, and that's kind of a multi-purpose weapon where they're utilizing that as both their current LMG until we can get the 30 cal in play. So yeah, the Sturmgewehr is going to be very exciting. Fires the 7.92 Kurtz round. This is nearly ready. We've got the audio, we've got the animation. We could fine tune a little bit of animation work, but it's good enough to press it forward and do well. This will be as part of this big patch coming in May. Again, Tier 3 with American forces. So the Allies get a whole side, a whole new country. These guys get a weapon. That's a fair trade. I mean, is it fair? I don't know. But this thing's it's gonna be lethal in the field, guys. And it's gonna be, you will be able to shoot and move with it. So it's not classified at all as an LMG. This is an assault rifle. So that's it.
All right, thank you, Zoom. And there's a lot more stuff coming into this this upcoming patch that's coming out next month. We just wanted to highlight some of it, but there's a lot more that's in there. You'll just have to wait and see what else is slated for it. So the patch after that, which is 1.36.6, which we don't have a date on it yet, but that will be the patch thereafter. We've got several things coming into this one. The bomber loadouts. So for the Boston, you're going to have 3 different loadouts that you could choose. One will be the 8 bombs at 250 pounds each. Or the second loadout will be 4 bombs, 500 pounds each. Or the third loadout is going to be 24 bombs at 40 pounds each. So for the Boston, it's all about weight and what was more historically accurate in World War II. And that's going to be the same for the rest of them. So for the Douglas DB7, we're looking at, for the first loadout, 8 100 kilogram bombs. And for the second loadout is going to be 4 200 kilogram bombs. And the third loadout is going to be 16 bombs at 50 kilograms each. Now, when you're spawning in on these, you're going to have to click on which loadout you want. So preparing your mission and figuring out what you're going to be doing is going to be key before spawning in, obviously. For the JU-87, we've got 2 loadouts. One of them is, the first one is going to be one 250 kilogram bomb and 4 50 kilogram bombs. And the second loadout is going to be one 500 kilogram bomb. The HE-111 is going to have 3 loadouts. You're looking at 8 250 kilogram bombs. The second loadout is 32 50 kilogram bombs. And the third loadout, you're going to have a mix of 4 250 kilogram bombs and 16 50 kilogram bombs. So the next thing we've got coming up.
Oh, Jim.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, about the bomber loadouts. I just want to highlight, so not only are bomber pilots getting, you don't need to go through them all again, I just want to make this point. Not only are bomber pilots going to be getting server tracked objects for their bombs, so you can drop them at higher altitudes like never before. Now you're getting this option for the bomber loadouts without impacting supply numbers. So we won't be making any modifications. It's not like, oh, you can fly that Heinkel with that loadout or that Heinkel with that loadout. The numbers of supply are not impacted by this. You simply choose which one you want to take out. So if there's currently 10 of this bomber today, when we implement this, there will be 10 of that bomber at that point, and you can just play them. So that goes for both sides, all equipment. This bomber loadout, it was at my request that we first work towards getting our bomber pilots more attention. I hope you're taking that away from this meeting, because our bomber pilots, right next to the naval guys, have been the most neglected in our game for quite some time. And thank you, bomber pilots, for hanging in there. We're getting this stuff to you very intentionally, but the loadout mechanism can then be applied to other things, not just bombers. We can also look at tanks and but vehicles, not infantry, strictly vehicles at this stage. So this is the door opening to loadouts for all vehicles, but we're starting here in a micro fashion to our most neglected group in the air. Okay, that's it. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is going to be the improved flight gauges. Zoom, do you want to take care of this one?
Sure. The pictures that you're about to see are very hard to tell, but just go ahead and go through them really quickly. This is the BF-109 cockpit. The production team is working on improving the gauges. Between those two pictures, the most noticeable one is the left and right of the aircraft and the hang. You can see it right there, second from the left, bottom dial there, left and right. You can see a little bit of art change. It's kind of hard to see right now, but this is a work in progress. It's not supposed to be some amazing thing. At this point, we're just identifying that, look, we're going to start improving the definition of these gauges. We're going from 128 by 128 texture sheets to 1024, which is a 10 times increase, if you will. It's going to be much better. We're also going to be looking at the dashes. This is pretty old artwork, and we know that World War II Online has some dated art. We've been around for some time. This stuff does not change overnight. It takes time. So our main goal is just saying, hey, look, we're going to start working on this. Boom Boom has already done a great job with the Junkers 88. He's also done some work on the Kitty Hawk, and he's looking at more interior vehicle pits, which is what we refer to them as, both on the ground and in the air. So that's what this represents. We realize it's kind of hard for you to look at it right now and see what the difference is, but it's going to be easier, higher definition, easier for us to modify these going forward with the increased resolution and texture sheets. This is just what we can do where we can. So it's a constant state of improvement within our resource capabilities. So that's it, Jim. Go ahead.
All righty. Oh, this one's you as well.
Yay, me. Okay, so have you guys noticed, this is for the MG-17 and MGFF, which is the primary weaponry on Axis. So the Luftwaffe, I was flying the other day, BF 109, and also my Stuka, and I'm firing. Do you guys notice how wimpy the machine gun noise is? It's just, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So what we did was we looked back and we said, hey, we had different sounds for this, right? So we looked at our old 117 mods, version 1.17. It was old school. The machine guns sounded better. So what we did was we took those old machine gun noises, we brought them back, we added some more bass and a little bit of treble. We tried to add greater definition and give it some, some balls. I don't know what else to say. Make it sound a little masculine. Because right now, if you're in game, it just sounds strange. So that's what this represents pretty quickly. We've already got that on the shelf and ready to go. We modified the MG17. This is going to impact all of the German fighters as well as the Stuka sound. And we also modified one of the exterior sounds and enhanced the others. So that's just this. That was a concept, a test. We're going to continuously evaluate, where we got things better before, what changed over time that actually got worse. How can we? And this is a philosophy that our whole team encompasses. This is just one example. So anyway, I think the Luftwaffe is going to appreciate it. I think there's going to be a mental factor where, hey, this machine gun actually does something. Because right now it just sounds awful. And sorry, I don't know why it took so long to fix that. But if you guys have more ideas, I'll encourage you, more ideas of where sound or what we did better in the past, and particularly sound is an easy one to work with. Go to the game ideas and suggestions forum, put it there, help us figure it out. And if we can find something quickly to change, we'll do it, because a lot of stuff was changed and not for the better, unfortunately. So that's something we're actively looking at. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Well, we sent out a poll. I don't remember exactly how far back that was, but what towns you guys suggested for adding the new bunkers in? Well, we've got a list for you. So we're going to start off with Pentagon bunker. And I don't know if you guys remember that. It is in game in a couple of the towns up in the far north and in the Z's, and I think maybe a couple down in France. But they don't get much action. So getting these things out on the front line in towns that are big active battles, it just makes a lot of sense. And so anyway, here's a list of the towns. We're going to put the Pentagon bunker in Dinant, Grabendonk, Leuven, Namur, Verdun, Bremet, and Tilt. Now, some of these towns have more than one army base. This is only going in one of those army bases, not both of them. So for the cement bunker, we're going to be sticking those in Shield. Longway is actually going to have both of their army bases bunkers replaced. That's the only town where both of them are going to be affected. And then Vlissingen. So I love these new bunkers. I think it's going to expand everything that we're doing and that we're talking about and discussing today is just game-changing stuff. These bunkers, the battles that could happen inside these things, they're huge. It's amazing, just amazing. And I love the murder hole from the old days. I was very good at defending the bunker. And these are just, it's amazing what the artists have done and the development team and production team. Big props to those guys. I just can't wait to get them in on towns that we battle in all the time.
Jim, I got something.
Yep.
Sorry, go back to that. This represents clearly what I was just talking about CRS taking a step back and saying, what did we do better? How did we make this game more enjoyable for everybody? You recognize these bunkers. We all have a lot of experience in playtime. If you're a long-time vet, it's been a very long time since these have been in the main battle space of the game. So what Jim was just referring to is all these towns are pretty key strategic towns. I mean, just look at them. We've all had amazing battles there. So our objective by creating these new objects or rebuilding the old stuff, but doing a better job, and he's right, the artist really kicked some ass doing this, but they're nowhere on the main play space, which doesn't make sense. So that's why we're doing this. You guys need to be able to experience this, and we're going to actually expand. This just represents the beginning phase of us changing these out. I want to call on TR6 Al. He's our not only a quality assurance guy who's been helping out for a while, but now he's directly on the front lines of terrain development. Al, is there anything you want to tell the players about how you're approaching terrain and looking for new ways to improve it, or to talk about these bunkers at all? Man, I hope he's here. Al, are you here?
I don't see him on this cam.
Oh, he's here. Hold on. I'm going to unmute him. Oh, he's not on his cam. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. But anyways, it's really exciting. We're going to continue to add these bunkers elsewhere throughout the main play spaces. We're also modifying AI towers and certain positions, just trying to make the game more sensible. So when you guys type a .bug report and say, hey, this building's here or something's wrong, these are the guys who are checking it out, and he's actually the one making the changes now, and we really appreciate what he's doing. All right, go ahead, Jim.
All righty. So the next thing up, we've got infantry field of view increase. And once again, I'm going to defer to Zoom on this.
Yes. All right. So I've been in the forums talking to you guys about this a little bit. This is actually one of the screenshots that we had in the forums. This is the current field of view. So it's really important to identify that most of our players play infantry. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. In fact, like the main military, the rifleman makes up the bulk of the forces. So take a look very carefully. Look at the edges of the screen right now before he transitions it. And notice that this is a resting, non-aimed position. So this is just you walking around casually. And Chim, go ahead and transition. Now carefully look left and right. Okay, now go back for a second. All right, do it one more time. The field of view is greatly enhanced. Now, some people I've seen in the forums are like, wait a minute, I can't see straight ahead just as well. You're going to get good at this. Now, one thing that we inherently have, if you look at my camera right here, this is our current field of view. If you can imagine, it's right here. But our peripheral isn't being examined well. That's right, Ryan, man. Everybody now. No. But your peripheral isn't being considered. So even as you turn your head left and you turn it to the right, this increased peripheral will be there. And it's going to impact, I have a widescreen monitor as it is, but it's going to impact everybody, even at a lower end resolution size, which means people are going to be more engaged in the battle and they're going to recognize what's going on around them. World War II Online is all about scale. There's a lot of stuff happening. So if we have a very narrow viewport, you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff and be more prone to being killed. I mean, it's just how it is. So as you aim down your sight, which we don't have a picture for that here, your current aiming capability is not being impacted at all. This is another one of those things where I sat back and evaluated and said, what have we done better historically? And in fact, in our earlier versions, we had an increased field of view. We've just gotten so comfortable with where we're at now. Chim, go back one slide, please. We've gotten so comfortable with this position, and look at how much is missed in this view. So this is something that's going to be coming. From my initial suggestions, we have toned the increase down a bit because we don't want to be too far out. That'll look very unnatural. So again, you can see a building on your left, and on the far right at that kind of 20-degree angle, that's actually another building. And as you maneuver through a town, it's much easier. You can navigate through the buildings with clarity. You can actually anticipate that corner better, and it overall improved smoothness for me, anyways. Whether sprinting or jogging or whatever, I think it's going to do a lot of good. And I feel as a predominantly infantry-based player, this is a huge thing, and I hope you're excited about it. That's it.
Okay. Oh, the rat got shot. All right.
Man down.
Man down. Oh, this is all you.
Yeah. All right. You forgot to update my title, man. All right. So in terms of our overall company objectives, here are just a few of the bullet points of things that are most important to our current direction. Okay, so stabilizing the game server and connectivity. Look, first and foremost, totally understood. We've had some pretty unique challenges. We have all new hardware in our Portland facility. That whole move went about as good as it could have, especially during a holiday and a new year. And just straight up, I apologize for the difficulty there. It's something that we're actively examining and looking for improvements. We did find something recently inside of our colo. One of our main servers had a hard drive, which we just got. We just got the new hard drive. It was having issues and failing. So we're doing work to fix that up. Okay. In fact, there's going to be a more extended downtime coming soon. Not terrible. It'll be less than half a day to get that particular machine operational. But connectivity concerns, look, if you're having increased ping and you're like, man, what's going on? I really encourage you to get in the testing and bug reporting forums, or even send in a support ticket. We've already, on a couple of occasions with our customers, like either on the East Coast or in Europe, for example, send us what's called a trace route. And that helps us see what hops you're going through the internet to get to our server. And then we work with our internet service provider and say, hey, here's what our customers are experiencing. Then they're going to go and try and make that path smoother and reduce the number of places you have to go to. Obviously, we've moved from Dallas, Fort Worth, which is in the center of the US, off to the West Coast. There is going to be some impact on connectivity. That's just, geography, right? But that doesn't mean there can't be improved ways for us to do a better job. We need your help to do that. The more of those trace route reports that we get, the more we can go to our ISP and the more we can smooth those out. And we're still on our end doing what we can to help. In fact, we not long ago replaced 100% of all the cabling, brand new, really good cabling in our server infrastructure, just to be sure that it wasn't anything on our end. Still, there's more work to be done. We are staying accountable to knowing that we're here to provide a quality service, and we are assuming responsibility until things are resolved, for sure. But your reports are going to help us in that endeavor. All right, next, please. All right, we just released 64-bit. Holy crap, that was a big deal. Now, some of you have been experiencing some issues since releasing it. Our quality assurance team is exactly about, what is it, 5 kings, something like that? 4 or 5 guys? How many guys you got there?
Yeah, it's 5 of us now.
All right, 5 outstanding guys who do an amazing job, but it's still 5 guys, and we're talking about providing this to thousands of people. Please be patient as we endeavor as ever to make progress. There will be issues. We are going to experience some stuff. This is how we make progress. So please be patient. Give us great reports. Give us the grace we need to get the job done. Just last night, and if you're a Mac user who have that weird, quarter part of your screen working only, go to the main page, download the latest 64-bit update. We just fixed that. We are actively committed to resolving issues as they come up. We're going to stay committed. Smoothing out the 64-bit release is absolutely paramount to us. We need your reports. We need a DX diags from our PC users so we can see and analyze your hardware. 5 guys can only do so much. The lack of open beta testing definitely contributed to this. The QA team really went and put their necks out there and said, look, we need testers. We'll put up some test sessions, and we had maybe 15 to 20 people participate in that. So yes, at best, we had maybe 25 to 30 people test 64-bit. There are going to be problems, and we're not a huge company to be able to make that much different. All we can do is say, hey, here's an opportunity. You can either jump on it or we go through this, which is basically we fumble around and try and get it done. All the same, that kind of sounds negative. We're still making progress. 64-bit is released. We're still going down a good road, just trying to have some hard truths with everybody here so that we understand and communicate clearly about what's going on. Next bullet, please. All right. Increasing the number of concurrent users playing is always a critical objective for us, but it's certainly mine. The game is an MMO. It's designed to have a capacity of 5,000 concurrent users. Now, like we experienced yesterday, if you were online, if you have all those users in one tight area, the server will explode. Fortunately, it held up. Some guys were kicked. So while it can hold up to 5,000 users, we don't put them all in one town, okay? Make sure we spread people out, and as we do our events going forward, we need to understand that. But we brought back free play. We realized we made a mistake, and we quickly corrected that, which says a lot. And we ate crow the whole bit. Free players have brought up concurrent users quite a bit, especially in today's climate. And in that thinking, we've now opened up free play access to all of our premium subscribers, whether you're active today or maybe next week you have to unsubscribe. This climate right now with the economical indifferences is pretty extraordinary. So the most important thing for our game is enabling a pathway to play. Now, your subscriptions still retain tremendous value. If you're a veteran who's returned and you only have free play, you're only going to have a rifleman, a couple of reserve pieces of equipment, and a truck, and a light AA and light ATG gun. That is not enough to have a full-blown World War II online experience, but it is enough to be able to log in, play, and hopefully enjoy being with your squads on your main account. Because what we started to find was, hey, these guys are just creating second alternative accounts. What's the point? At least let's get them back. So getting those numbers up. Just yesterday, we announced. 2 days ago, Friday, we announced the free play going to all veterans. So now, literally everybody with a World War II online account should be able to play the game at all times. That's really exciting. Make sure you let people know it's the first time we've ever done it. We're taking a little bit of a risk in doing that, so please keep your subscriptions active. That helps us keep the game going. Okay, next bullet, please. All right, so increase connectivity and health within our community. Recently, we've been in the forums talking about how we can keep things healthy and not have like this sort of back and forth attacking, and really trying to improve the overall health and climate of our community. The community management team has been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to better structure the forums. We've also opened up a Slack for our premium subscribers to talk with them. If you didn't get that invite, well, you didn't check your email because we sent it a couple of times. We can send another one if need be. That's another way for us to communicate with you, and that's another perk, we're calling it, for the premium subscribers. We also have our Facebook group, Facebook page, a lot of activity in that group. The point is CRS is still one of the only developers that really come to you in this manner. There's a lot of other devs out there who wouldn't care. They don't respond to what you have to say. So try and remember that although we may not always say the things that are most important to you, the fact that we're putting ourselves out here is very uncommon in our industry. And I think it directly contributes to our close relationship as community and developer. And we're actively looking for ways to improve that. We want our rats to go into the forum safely. I say that in that manner because when you see rat tags, you kind of just want to unload on them. Can I encourage you not to? Just go about it a little differently, and that would be great. Well, you'll see us a lot more. Next bullet, please. Obviously, completion of our roadmap is our guidepost for all current development items. There are a couple of things that were not on the roadmap that are making their way in there, but they've had limited to no impact on our trajectory towards that roadmap. We're getting some more people, especially during this whole weird Corona time, joining our team, which is great. We're glad to have the help, and we're getting more stuff done. And we actually have a couple of new artists who are building up right now. So we're going to see more momentum going forward. If you have technical chops, by the way, and you like to help our team, contact me, would you? We are looking for some extra developer help. We'd totally welcome it. C++, you need to know that stuff, otherwise it won't be very useful. But that's something we would love. Next item, please. Okay, advancing our engine technologies from within. We've kind of succumbed to the understanding that talking about Unreal Engine, while a very great idea overall, is very much out of scope for what our team's capabilities are in terms of finances. That's a very expensive project. Lots of money has gone into, and time for that matter, and talent, into building World War II Online into what it is today. But that doesn't mean we can't advance our technologies from within. So I just want to help set expectations. When we talk about things like, hey, we should have another big developer buy out CRS so that we can actually get the World War II Online we want. I'm just going to stop you right there and pretty much guarantee that you're going to get somebody to buy out the IP and shut it down, or you're going to get somebody who really doesn't care. The people who you are surrounded by right now, who are on screen, who are putting their time into this, are literally from the community. You can't buy better loyalty and hard workers than that. I mean, it's guys, hello. So instead of going crazy about, hey, let's build 2.0, believe me, I want to. We need to understand we have got to advance our technologies from within. Not only should we can, and we will. So I'm just announcing that's our objective. Tamper back on that stuff. Let's make sure we understand what we can do and what we're committed to doing. Go ahead and go forward. Okay, this is where I take a break. Go ahead.
T-Man, you want to take on this, or who's running the Q&A?
Yeah, I'm happy to take it on for a little while. I do have to run in about a half an hour. Maybe somebody can take over at that point. You guys all have a little raise your hand symbol. If there's anybody who has a question at this point, we'll open up the floor. As Zoom said, we're going to try and keep it to one question each. And if we have time towards the end, maybe we can get a second round in for those that are still hanging around. Austin Barlow. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I've noticed recently multi-crewing with tanks, there seem to be issues with audio sounds, specifically shots being hit on the tank, but when I'm in the turret, I do not hear those shots. Are there any plans to work on the audio system specifically for tanks?
Thanks, King.
Pretty much, if you're talking about when you're in a inside the tank, in other words, when you take a shot, you're not hearing anything, or when you're shooting. Who was it, Austin? Let me unmute him.
Yeah, it's when I'm being shot at and I'm as a gunner, the driver can hear the shot, but the gunner cannot.
I'll have to look into that. That I wasn't familiar with that issue, but it's something that we obviously we want to fix everything to get it to work properly. But yeah, you should hear shots in every position. I know the only one I've ever run into is on some of the trucks, not being able to hear on the outside very well. So, but it's something we would definitely, definitely want to look into.
Thanks, King. Austin, what's your game name?
G General 17.
Okay, great. I think a lot of people, will recognize you by your game name before your birth name. Thanks. Anthony Pemberton, what's your game name?
Comms.
Say it again, sir.
Comms check, you hear me?
Okay, great. Yep.
Okay, I'm still trying to figure this thing out. This goes into regards of your bringing the Sturmgewehr 44. And you mentioned you're bringing out a couple other weapons in the near future once you get graphics and etc. finished. Do you intend to bring anti-personnel and anti-tank mines sometime in the future?
Thanks for the question, Zoom.
Yeah, here. Sorry, I was taking a break. Short answer is yes, that's something we want to explore, and that's not currently on our roadmap, and I can't tell you when, but that would be awesome. Exploring any and all player-place objects, as you've seen through our trenches, it's one of the unique things that our game has that we do a pretty good job with and that we can expand pretty easily. It's one of the path of least resistance type items for our development capabilities. So that's something we definitely want to explore more of. Yep.
Thanks, Anthony.
Just as a quick side note to that, what Zoom mentioned earlier about the S.T.O. With the bombs and that in we didn't even have the capability for ground, placeable ground objects like mines or what have you before that. So that opens a lot of doors, whether it's DD guns, mines, what have you, something that can be placed and forgotten, so to speak, or fired and forgotten. So yeah, that's hopefully we'll be able to look at that sooner rather than later.
Thanks, Hatch. Downtown, unmuted. Can you believe that?
Yeah. You have a P-38 and a P-40 and American markings in the offline version. Can't they be brought in for American Air Force?
They could, but the U.S. Air Force is awfully incomplete. Hatch, is there something you want to add to that?
Not the main thing with the Americans at the moment is that bottom line is that they were kind of hacked in to where they don't share the supply properly, as do the primary three countries, German, French, and British. And if you notice, that ties into a lot of the different things, even as far as like your squad badges and stuff. If you notice on all the three primary countries, you get your squad badges and your different stuff on there. Those don't even show up on the American birds because they're not in there properly. So we're going to expand on them as soon as possible. Bring some more airplanes into the mix. There's also an American P-39 that's sort of waiting in the wings. So they'll have the 38 that you and the P-40 you've seen, and then they'll have a 39, possibly an earlier P-40. We'll have to work on that. There's actually, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. But we want to first incorporate them as soon as possible into the supply system like the rest of the countries are. So that everything works properly with supply and badges and scoring and everything else, and then bring them up to the same standards as the rest of them. Hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Hatch. Gifa 68 is up, and then Nate. Go ahead, sir.
Hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So, two issues. One, it's already been on the chat, but I want to get sure. One of the reasons I went away was I've been playing it for about 20 years with different names. One of the reasons I went away and came back and forth was hoping that there would be no cheating involved. And cheating was not about clipping or, okay, these are glitches you can always have, and you can both exploit from both sides. But one thing I cannot understand is when people are spawning the second accounts, the ones you have just applied freely, just to check on the other side the positions on the map. The whole game is about concealment, about stale, about being prompt on movement. So are there any steps further to cut this action, what's happening?
Send that to Ohm.
Ohm?
All right. When you suspect somebody of doing that, first thing you got to do is do a dot report so the GMs could start looking into the situation that's going on at that time. As there is many players here that have multiple accounts, and they do have other family members that do play. Sometimes they play on the opposite side. We can't stop that. They do pay for the accounts, and they're allowed to play. But if they're spawning in and you think somebody's just sitting at the map screen for a long time, something like that, do a dot report. And the GMs, they have tools that could check that out. But we don't have anything automated yet that'll pop up. But we may have something in the future to let the GMs know that that's happening. So that's what we got for now. I mean, that your dot reports are what starts off the investigations.
Thanks, Om. Yeah, just to add to that, we really do have an aggressive game management team. They're volunteers, they're players. Some are CRS and some are just game managers or moderators. And you know, we do look at the reports as they come in, and we do have tools to locate and identify cheaters. Nate?
Let's try and do rapid fire here. Let's spend about 10 more minutes on questions. So be quick about it. Just one question, guys, and then let's get a little bit more, and then we'll wrap up. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I be heard?
You're up. Go ahead.
Yep.
Okay. In the future, will there ever be like customizable bomber loadouts for like any of the planes you can customize yourself, or is it just going to be just the 3 loadouts gave to you?
Oh, so those kind of loadouts for vehicles, again, it's really important to identify vehicles. They will be at this point and for the foreseeable future until otherwise stated, provided by CRS, and there will be historical loadout options. But being able to say, you know, I want 3 of these bombs and 1 of those and this and that, no, they're going to be predetermined because that's what we can do.
Thanks, Nate. Stuarta.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any plans to make the Navy a little bit more meaningful in the game? Been playing for probably about 20 years as well, and I'd love to play Navy, but you know, it is what it is. You got any plans?
Short answer is yes. We'd love to do more with the Navy. In fact, one of our artists is here, Boom Boom, and he's been looking at possibilities for that. We all know that it's. I mentioned it earlier. We were talking about bombers being neglected. They're right up there at the peak of the neglected community. Undoubtedly, more to be done there. As of our current roadmap and what we need to do, that's our guidepost. I don't have a great answer. Boom Boom, do you have anything for these guys? And be careful. We don't want to promise a bunch of stuff that we, you know, it's going to be a little while, if anything. Is there anything you want to add to it?
Well, as I'm not at liberty to tell too much, all I can say is that focus right now is sedans and small craft. We have a couple of vehicles in the pipeline, but I can't commit to any date. And that's about it. That's about it. All I can say for the moment.
Yeah, that's good enough. The only other thing I can think of is that we've been talking about implementing mobile spawns to the troop transport as a means of like for simulating a beach invasion, for example. That's about all we got. One thing I've talked about before, and I'd still love to do, is to connect. This is not something we're working on by any means, but it's something I'd love to do, and that is getting shipping lines set up and making them part of RDP in some capacity. That would bring a lot of meaningful gameplay to that zone, but don't have anything to talk about really today on that. Sorry.
Thanks, Zoom. Next up.
Good evening. How you say my name? Fifu. Since we're working on the loadouts on bombers, for example, I will ask, well, I also saw you working on the Wellington as well. And I'm asking if there's any plans on adding a torpedo loadout for that kind of bomber. For example, I know the Blenheim had one. Is there any chance it's coming back, for example?
Okay.
The torpedo loadout?
Yes.
Yeah. The reason we don't have the torpedo bombers activated throughout the campaign is 100% because they're too damn good. And we don't want to nerf their capability, but we also don't want to kill what little naval game that we have. The Wellington is just starting artwork, just starting this week is starting to get artwork done. The JU-88 is another story. That was kind of our test subject for our first ground up aircraft, and that's coming along pretty good. We've talked about that. We didn't really mention it here, but you can see it in my April 1st update. But no, I don't think Hatch may think otherwise, but I don't see any good thing to come from giving torpedoes to bombers. If we look at our history, we've had Blenheim torpedo bombers forever, and they're always deactivated solely because of their negative impact on what little naval game that we have. So I would probably say no at this stage, but those loadouts are yet to be determined.
Thanks, Zoom.
I'd never heard that they were too good.
Well, they are. They
Interesting.
kick some ass, man.
No, what I always heard was that the Blenheim actually never carried a torpedo. They were put in
Right.
for the Gant, and they're
Didn't
not
have
they're
anything
not
to do with that. But there are some other things that we could do if that was the case, specifically more randomization on torpedo performance or what have you. So I hope once we have all the planes in that are torpedo capable, they'll be implemented much like the SCG-44, where there are a limited number of those that are usable to whoever wants to do that.
So as you can see, some more to be determined internally before we can publicly say really anything effective on that. But for the foreseeable future, and until otherwise stated, the torpedo bombers will be an intermission only thing. And when you do that, make sure we do that this intermission, maybe, and then they'll see firsthand how deadly they are, because they're devastating.
You know, ships do turn, right?
I'm just saying, you want a naval game or you want to kill it? Take your pick. Go ahead, T-Man.
We have our own version of the forums here. Okay, FFF.
Radio check over.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, this bomber loadout is really exciting to me, and I may have missed this question from old Zeke or Chim, but the bomber loadouts, is it the same weight, or will it affect airspeed and rate of climb?
We'll let Hatch answer that.
No, it affects everything. It should, if it's external, it should affect, well, internal or external. Weight's gonna have an effect on the drag. Specifically just because of the weight on the flight components, but wings and such. External loadouts should also have a hindrance in wind. I'm forgetting the term right off the top of my head, but basically wind stream drag. So yeah, they're all. I think if you are, just as an example, you go into the game right now, like a Stuka or something, and you are on the runway and you drop one of the 50 kgs, you'll see the plane rocking from side to side as that weight's released off the airframe. So yeah, it's all tied in.
Oh, great. Thank you, sir.
5 more minutes of questions, and then we're going to wrap up. Go ahead, T-Man.
Lems?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One thing I was thinking about is when our mobile spawns are moved up, and then when we're pushing the line up, it's hard to move a new spawn up unless you go back, get a truck, and start over again. Any thought of maybe allowing like the mission leader only to spawn a truck from his FMS so that he could move up the FMS as the battle progresses in?
We had that, Dilem's good question. We've had that before, where there was they call it the FRU, the FRU, Field Resupply Unit, and the mission leader would place that as infantry. We took that out because we wanted to bring back combined arms gameplay. Then we implemented a high command only mobile spawn with riflemen, and then that got expanded into SMGs. And then there was confusion, and we removed that. Totally understood. It's something that I'm having a hard time answering, but more infantry placed mobile spawns is not the answer.
Yeah, that's not my question. My question was allow the mission leader to spawn a truck. So a truck would appear, and then he could take that truck, instead of starting from the forward base, he starts from the FMS.
Okay.
Then he can move, he drives the truck 500 meters closer to the town and resets the FMS.
something we'd have to debate. Is it technically possible? Yes. Does it make sense for a truck to spawn out of that kind of object? Although we could have that debate, spawning, is that really a thing?
Well, my thought was it's a battle group. Your battle group's at the FMS. You've been there, you're fighting, you've pushed the enemy out. Why does your battle group have to go back to the forward base to bring the truck up?
Yeah, no, I understand.
That's the question.
It sounds, yeah. So can it happen? Yes. Is it something we're going to do? I don't know. It's something we would have to discuss. And I understand the methodology and the strategy. I'm a firm believer in keeping the battle going. That's why we made forward bases stronger. That's why we implemented the fortified mobile spawn concept, so that it was stronger and you can have a defensive position. That's why we've implemented all these PPOs. So we've already demonstrated willingness to keep the battle going. And I understand the investment and time involved with that, but we have to very carefully consider decisions like that before it ends up in gameplay, and really look at how can this be taken advantage of or ruin gameplay. We're not ready to answer on that in any official capacity, but I understand your suggestion, which is to have the truck spawn up there. At this time, I can tell you with certainty there is no limiting factor that we can implement for us to have only a mission leader, because it's not a subscription. So technically that we're talking about new code implementation. It wouldn't be very easy for us to do. It would be everyone would have access to that truck and whatever the FB supply is. So it can't be at this time as controlled as you're saying. So T-Man, go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks, Glims. Unmuting Shager.
Yep, guys, can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, first of all, for all the PPO work and the new weapons. I think that's so important for the players. My question was actually two quick questions. Since we can track items now, such as bombs, is it possible to bring up the idea of the medium artillery? And the second question is the trench damage. I didn't follow the beginning of that. How much?
You faded off there at the end. It's one HE charge can destroy one section of trench.
That's an HE. Okay, that's very little, but okay. So what about the artillery?
Go ahead, Etch.
I just wanted to bring up the preliminary damage levels that we're looking at this. We haven't even run that through the QA, completely through the QA set yet. Obviously, what we want is those trenches to be strong enough to be utilized. I mean, if you can drop them too easily, then no one's going to use them. And so that a lot of that needs to be determined. So whether it's a single bomb right at the moment or a single 688 shells or whatever, take that with a grain of salt for the moment. We're going to be working this out with the QA guys and you. We may put them out and say, okay, we think this is a good route, and then we're going to be following up with what you guys are saying on the forums. Is it too much? Is it too little? And we'll be working to make them right. I mean, that's just, we want to do our best for play on all that stuff. So yeah, that's still to be determined, complete, as well as the damage threshold. What you don't want a whole row of MG34s just shooting at them and taking them out because there's enough of them. So there's going to have to be a damage level that lets where certain damage like rifle bullets is basically thrown out, as opposed to an 88 shell, and then the total amount of damage that should be accrued. And I'd also like, again, this is kind of a pipe dream on my side, but I have discussed it with Zoom, a way that much like you replenish some of the ammo dumps, that you can have one of the characters, whether it's the engineer that sets them, sort of restart their timer or rebuild, help keep them alive. So anyways, this is just the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. I was just thinking that it should take quite a bit, because if people want to be able to rely on them, it should not be taken out by just a single charge or by an anti-tank gun.
Agreed.
They should be resisting to quite a bit, because then they become really like a new battle within the battle, which is quite cool.
Agree.
And so my next question was, yes, about the medium artillery. Any idea about that?
I think
didn't
Zoom
hear.
said it before that the server tracked objects function will allow us in the future to do some type of potential artillery, and that is something we're thinking about. We think it opens many doors.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys, and again, thank you very much for this this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shayer.
Okay. Look, that's it for questions. A few of us will stick around a little bit longer after we officially conclude. Chim, why don't you hit the slide? One last thing for you guys here. And thanks if you stuck around. It looks like 27 people are missing this information. So I want to talk to you. One of my last points was enhancing our game engine from within its capabilities, and stopping this thought process of just, oh, Unreal will solve all of our problems. As it currently stands right now, our team is looking at what it will take for us to advance Speed Tree. Speed Tree is all of the objects within our game that are trees, bushes, even the lens flare used to have wind and things like that. What you're about to see next is a demonstration not within World War II Online. The point of me sharing this with you, and it's very important that you carefully understand this is not in the game right now. It's going to show you what elements we may be able to bring in. So go ahead and hit the slide forward. This is a video. It's going to look a little choppy because it's being shared. This is Speed Tree 8 right now. And this is not in World War II Online, but it's a demonstration for what things we may be able to hook into World War II Online. You can see all of the grass here moving independently of each other. You'll recall again, Speed Tree early on when we implemented it years ago, it had wind effects. So wind effects is a thing, shaders is a thing that we can work towards, and all new assets to better populate World War II Online, to give the infantry better concealment, and for us to advance the graphical presentation of the nature throughout. This includes a procedural grass, among other things. And so the whole point of sharing this with you, this is Speed Tree 8, which is the latest and greatest version of Speed Tree. In our roadmap, we talked about upgrading our technology to Speed Tree 6. We currently run version 4.2, so we're kind of walking backwards to get you guys up to speed quickly. Currently in our game, we have version 4.2, which is what we've had forever, well over a decade, probably 14 years or so. So probably the 2006 era. So advancing the technology from 2006 to 2020 is significant. We wanted to share this with you, that we're examining what it will take to upgrade Speed Tree to the latest version, because our developers tell us that the work involved is almost equal. So we either go from version 4.2 to version 6, or we go from 4.2 to version 8. It makes sense for us to go as far as we can to push our technology. This Speed Tree 8 possibility was not available for us prior to our release to the 64-bit client. So there are some unknowns here at the moment, but our dev team does feel confident that we will be able to upgrade. We may not be able to get everything, but those are still being determined. This represents a very huge possibility for us to enhance the whole experience, and to bring back realistically moving foliage and trees. Although it's a little glitchy here in the screen share, it is moving seamlessly. You can get an idea of how this might impact the whole immersive experience. While we're not going to talk about it today, really beyond just sharing with you what we're working on, in order for us to move to Speed Tree 8, there will have to be an extra funding round for that. Obviously, getting that SDK is quite a bit. but we're not going to go into that today. We just wanted to plant the seed and share with you what it is that we're working on. Okay, Jim, I don't have anything else to add to it. And Austin, I see your comment about 8 FPS. That screen share right there was not representative of it being in game or its performance or anything. In fact, we're finding that SpeedTree version 8 is so well refined compared to 4.2, and all of SpeedTree objects are being ran on the graphics card, where most of the rest of the game is being ran on the CPU. We can push the graphics very well, you know, and using the GPU for SpeedTree without having impact on the rest of it. So, and it's far more efficient in every way. Okay, Jim, any last things here?
I just want to thank everybody personally for attending. These RatChats aren't a common occurrence, and you know, I want to thank the rats that are here and everybody that showed up. I know Zoom did meant that he touched on it a little bit, but you know, all the teams is almost every single person that's in CRS are volunteers that are players. I've been playing since 2004. You know, I don't have any technical chops, but you know, there's other areas. So if you are in a position and have some time to help, we could use help in almost every single facet of CRS. You know, and I know the marketing team, you know, SE King with QA, dev, production. There's so much room for volunteers that anybody that is willing, you know, just give us a holler. That's all I had.
Okay, we're putting some hands down. I just want to, can you go ahead and kill screen share? Give our other guys an opportunity, our other rats in closing, just an opportunity if they have anything they wanted to add before we close out. I'm going to go with Sniper. Is Sniper still here?
Yeah, I don't have anything extra. Do appreciate everybody that showing up. Appreciate you guys putting together this informative thing for the player base. I think it's an overall great experience to have every once in a while. And it really kind of shows or pushes a point where you were talking about earlier with game developers and interacting with their user base and community. So yeah, thanks.
Cool. Okay, Hatch, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I can't think of anything unless if all the questions, et cetera, that were pretty much answered, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Yeah, and as we close out, we're just trying to close out this recording, and once that's over, you guys can bail. Otherwise, a few of us will stick around and answer some more questions that we may not have got to. Zebby, I see you're here. Is there anything you wanted to say to the community? CRS guys, get your microphone ready to be unmuted. Okay, Zebby's not answering. B2K, got anything?
Yeah. On the forum note, we are looking for some additional forum moderators. If anybody's interested, hit up myself or a member of the CM team. Right now, there's about 4, I think, that are active, and we can always use some more. So if anybody's interested, let us know.
Cool. T-Man?
Yeah, no, just jump on the volunteer bandwagon. The community management team always needs volunteers. As you know, we are running regular events now. Every 3 to 4 weeks, we're running an event on the live server. We need help setting them up, working with the high commands. We have volunteers who are game trainers who have special tools in game where you can grab onto green tags and show them the ropes, steer them to a squad, get them oriented. So if you're interested in being a game trainer, PF Mosquito runs the game trainers. You can contact him or you can contact me. And of course, I'm Brutus is running the high command recruitment and training process. So if anybody's interested in giving her help training HC members, reach out to I'm Brutus or me. But thank you all for coming. It's important to have your support, and it's important for you to know that we as a group are here for you. So if you have questions, send them along.
Okay. Boom Boom, anything? All right. Ohm, you got something?
Other than, if you have problems in the game, report it, bug it. If you're CTDing, the support team, will help out. Remember DX Diag, if you're on a PC, give it to us. We'll look at that. And we've actually found some issues with some players' PCs and stuff, and it seems to help out. This way, you help us with the info, we help you. That's the best thing. If you find glitches in with supply, PM me, or say you found something to somebody, and we'll investigate it, make sure it is actually an issue, and then we'll adjust it as needed. Sometimes it happens. Our database is large; it's hard to see everything. So we work with you, and sometimes stuff breaks by itself. It just happens. So other than that, thank you for coming. It's enjoyable to have these and see everybody show up and try to be informed.
Yep. XL2 Ripper, got anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say that just have patience with the whole terrain stuff like Zoom was talking about with the new speed tree that we're working on getting implemented into the game. Things like that take a lot of time, a lot of code and stuff like that. So we're working hard on making that work for this game. And also the whole image of the game as far as like the terrain and the buildings and that's all changing drastically too. So that stuff takes time. Like, for example, I put 160 hours just on one of the building models that are going into the city. So stuff like that, it takes a lot of time. And there's only a small amount of us, so just have patience. It'll get there. We'll make it work. That's all I've got.
Cool. All right, Old Zeke, anything for the community?
No, I think everything's pretty much been covered.
All right.
Unless you just want to see a Zeke story.
Maybe after. Thanks for the warning. Al, you got anything?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right, Heavy?
Just yesterday was wicked successful. Everyone had a blast. There were some server glitches, but I think after spreading everyone out, can't stress that enough. Spread out. There's a lot of room on the map. Use it and work with your high commands. And if you want to change something, join. I'm more than happy to help you get on board. That's all I got.
All right. Hio Silver, any last things?
Yeah, I just wanted to really compliment the guys and coming up with the waypoint thing as most of the time a CAS close air support. I like to be able to get up and use the planes the way they're supposed to. And it's awesome. I was able to, within a day, I was able to figure out how to use those waypoints in a positive way. And if, like I said, if people set them accurately, you can place one out in the middle of the field. And if there's something that really needs to be hit, then they can be hit. And I'm really excited about that. Thanks.
Cool. I don't think I missed anyone from CRS. I hope not. Chim, is there any last bits you had?
No, I had already said it.
Okay. Ryman?
Other than thanking everyone for showing up, can't wait for the new content to come out.
Cool. Whitman? Oh, you're muted. Hold up. Sorry, I forgot. Go ahead.
Nothing new apart from to apologize to Heavy for shooting him down twice last night.
Youch. Good job. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and cancel recording. Thanks for being here. If you want to stick around, we'll continue to answer questions. My guys, if you got to go, go. Chim, outstanding job. This dude put many, many hours into this presentation, and it was nice to have a little bit of a break. So thank you very much.
The recording